welcome to another edition of the Throwing Bagels Podcast. Kevin Mooney here with you alongside Jason Hamo. Hey, Jason.
Hello there, Kevin. How are you?
Hello. I am wonderful. And yourself?
I am doing fantastic.
Fantastic. Chris Douglas here as well. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Kevin. I wanted that cold open like the last time.
Oh, you wanted
Bam, just get right in.
I'll keep that in mind, Chris.
Yeah,
I'll dive right in next time.
Just to mess with people.
So we recently had women's ice hockey head coach Mark Digby on the Throwing Bagels podcast, and we're going to continue talking about. There'll be a common thread for the next couple of podcasts. And joining us now, it's our pleasure to welcome in the Assistant Vice President for Intercollegiate Athletics at SUNY Oswego, also the outgoing chair of the NCAA Division III Women's Ice Hockey Committee. It's Wendy McManus. Hey, Wendy.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you for taking the time to chat with us. This is wonderful. So Oswego is a few weeks away from wrapping up the academic year. And we look at some of the teams that are out there, such as baseball, men's and women's lacrosse, men's and women's soccer, men's and women's basketball. They all had winning seasons, their past full seasons. And of course, we haven't even talked about the hockey program. Seventh ranked women's team finishing with the best single season record in program history. Just missing out on an NCAA at-large bid, which we'll talk about during this podcast. The 14th ranked men's team won the SUNYAC title, made their first NCAA appearance since 2019. 2 All-Americans on the women's roster, 1 All-American on the men's roster. Wendy, how would you describe the performance of Oswego athletics over the past year?
We've really leveled up. So since I arrived, part of my thought process is looking at all of our programs, where they currently are, and what we could do to start leveling them up within our department. Men's programs, the success we've had with baseball, basketball, hockey, and how we can level up our women's programs to achieve that same success, but also within the SUNYAC as well. And we're taking small steps. Brett Howard just, a couple of weeks ago became the most winning coach for women's lacrosse. Brian McGrain's had tremendous success over the past couple of seasons. Volleyball's on the up and up. Tennis really had a great season. They're almost finished here. Got a couple more weekends. So, and then softball had a great spring break week. So we're really seeing our programs leveling up in the past few years, and in the fruits of our labor this year were really, really shown.
What do you contribute that to?
Coaching, coaching, what we've really stressed on. I can't help with the X's and O's in a lot of sports except for volleyball. But what I can help with is really managing our teams and what we're doing to help provide the equipment and the skills necessary for our teams to be successful. So we really talk a lot about the development side of our student athletes. What are we doing? How are we developing our leadership teams? We started Captain's Council this year, and using that as a bridge between coaches and administration, and having discussions about how to handle tough situations amongst your peers and amongst student athletes. So we've really started leveling up those pieces. And, it does come down to the commitment of our student athletes as well, right? They have bought into what our programs are doing. And without that commitment, all of the extras that we're trying to lead them with wouldn't matter, right? So ultimately it comes down to their commitment.
So what kind of let me start that over again. What just happened there? What kind of initiatives have you been able to put into place since joining Oswego in 2021?
Yeah. So we really amped up our student athlete advisory committee. So that's leadership amongst each team. Each team has 2, sometimes 3 people that serve on that committee. Our assistant athletic director for student athlete success, which is a position we got a grant for, oversees that. And that has been tremendous. And the work that Merlin does in that position and supports our students really has been impactful. He's hosting nutrition seminars with our campus nutritionist. He's hosting mental health seminars. In fact, right now, as we speak, they're doing a career fair esque, in MCC. And last I heard, there was over 200 student athletes there, right? Wow. So we're really putting these development programs in place, but we have things like Captain's Council. We have some new ones that we're going to implement next year. Maybe we'll come back and talk about how successful those are as well. But in addition to that, student affairs, my direct report, Dr. Kathleen Kerr, who's the vice president of student affairs, she implements what we call the co-curricular approach. And what this is, and maybe that's a good person to have on your call next so she can talk about it. What that is really planning out all of what we do over a period of time and getting us organized through, learning objectives and learning outcomes and all of these things that we have since implemented upon my arrival. So, I think steering that direction, creating common goals for all of us, utilizing the days that we can with NCAA to the best that we can, because we are limited, and, really, really has turned the tides for us in all sports.
When you see, I look around in different sports, and I tend to see a lot of the same schools highly ranked in all different sports. It's not just, I'm not just looking at hockey. I'm not just looking at basketball. I tend to see, if I go onto a website, I tend to see baseball and, women's softball, track and field. Is there a reason why there's certain schools that just seem to, I don't know if it's recruiting or whatnot, that seem to just have a lot better track records?
Yeah, I think there is some of that. There's also the majors that you offer, right? So physical education is obviously a big one, and we have health and promotion, which helps us in that area, but also the medical field for women. We're talking nursing, we're talking all of those medical associated majors. So that does impact, but I think it comes down to how a student can feel when they come to our campus, right? How do they feel about our coaching staff? How do they feel about our academic facilities? We have a lot of improvement still to do in our athletic facilities. So our student athletes, our prospective student athletes, have to buy into everything else, right? Because Laker Hall probably hasn't changed since you all have been on campus, right?
Nope, not at
So,
all.
we've done a little bit of here and there. We're doing some cosmetic upgrades. We're highlighting our student athletes of the month in our lobby. We redid our trophy cases. We have a couple more projects that are going. We're marketing our programs within our own building that wasn't there before. And it's been a slow, steady progress. Not something that we can just do overnight, but we're seeing those cosmetic upgrades that is helping. But yeah, we still have some work to do. When you compare us to the Brockports, the Cortlands that have the HPE program and have those facilities, we're still right there with them, right? Like every year we are competing with them, if not moving past them, right? So it falls back to who we are, what our coaches are able to provide as being a student athlete, being a Laker, and how they feel when they come to campus. There's some data out there somewhere, I'm sure you can find it on the internet, that most students make their decision within the first few minutes they're on campus, right? So that, we have to be strategic in where we take our student athletes, but we also have to be transparent. This is who we are. This is where we work. This is very blue collared space. We don't have the bells and whistles, but we have what we need to do to succeed. And we've proven that, over the years.
does private school, certain private schools, does that help? I guess they can get, the fact that they might be able to get donations from
Yeah.
larger
Yeah.
endowments or things like that.
Yeah, it's a different model because we can still get private donations. We can still have endowments here, but it's a different model, right? So I came from a private institution before Oswego, and the model was very much that athletics drove enrollment, right? So we were responsible at that institution for 40% of the new students annually, and we had football, and retention wasn't, factored into that. So, if we have football players and we retain, I know that this is not possible, but if we retain 100% of them, we still had to go out and recruit 40 to 50 new football players. So our model here is a little bit different. Yes, we do have our roster projections, and we do have rosters that numbers that each coach needs to meet, but retention is a part of that, and it still supports, Vision 4040, President Wosu's Vision 4040, and the strategic planning. So,
What has your experience been like chairing the women's ice hockey committee?
it's actually been fun. It's been a lot of fun. We wrapped up my tenure on the committee this morning, actually, if you want to count today. We've done a lot of work in the past 4 years, right? So, we went to predetermined site, our pilot program every other year, predetermined site. We changed the dates. So they now mirror the men. Instead of having that midweek game, we now go Saturday, Friday, Sunday. So we've made a lot of progress. We've also made a lot of progress on behind the scenes, some smaller things, and making it a really great experience for the student athletes that are participating in that event, from swag to what the facilities look like. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of work, but you go into those committees knowing that, and you also, appreciate the fruits of your labor, right? Like, this last weekend at River Falls was an amazing experience for those student athletes. I thought last year was the benchmark, but that staff at River Falls was amazing. They did such a great job. The NCAA supported, the job that River Falls was doing and their needs. They had some really cool stuff for our student athletes and for fans too. So they really made it an encouraging and entertaining experience for everybody.
We'll get to Oswego, just missing out in a minute. But when you're on the committee, whether you're just a chair or just a member of the committee, when you're talking about a specific school, right, like Oswego, for instance, I know how for instance, with Division I men's basketball, you always hear with the tournament, they have to leave the room when they talk about their school. Is that the case for you as well?
It is. Yeah. So with MPI, and I'm sure we'll get to MPI in a minute, it's a little bit easier because it's the math. But anytime we discuss Oswego or any member whose institution is in the running, we have to step away.
Yes, we're going to talk about NPI very shortly, but something kind of popped into my head when you were talking about every other year is a preordained, prearranged site. What factors do you look at when you look at campuses and determine whether or not they're a good fit to host a tournament?
Yeah. So the NCAA actually has an entire bid process. So the bare minimum that I recall off the top of my head, we're looking at locker rooms. We're looking at ease of travel, right? Can teams get to, Oswego or River Falls or wherever next without having to charter all the flights, right? So ease of travel is hotels, meeting space, athletic training spaces, all kinds of different layers of things. And of course, the rink itself, the capacity is a big part. Like, you have to have capacity of 1,000 to be able to consider for a bid, which is only for the Final Four. It does not apply to the first round and quarterfinals. So yeah, it's a lengthy process. The NCAA has a whole department, probably a few people. I don't know how many people work in that department. That's their sole responsibility, is identifying these spaces, sharing out, the specs to Oswego, to Buffalo, to River Falls, to wherever, Utica, wherever, and ensuring that the specs are met. And then the committee member or the NCAA liaison and the committee chair go and do a site visit just to, check out all the spaces.
Is there any chance Oswego could get in?
If we put in a bid, I think we could.
Yeah, because we were always wondering, do the facilities at the Marano Campus Center meet those minimum requirements? Is the travel probably from Syracuse, is that good enough? I guess there's only one way to find out, right?
That's right. That's right. I think our spaces are great. It's not any space. It's not without its faults, regardless if it's, NHL to, minor hockey. We'll see what the future brings.
So as part of the committee during your time, you saw the women's hockey program shift to NPI for postseason eligibility. What was the factors that led to that decision to move to NPI? And two-parter, how tough was it to see how close Oswego came to making the tournament, but just missing out because of the NPI?
So the NCAA actually made the decision for the move to the NPI. Was very similar to pairwise. The NPI, we'll see what our data is come summer. It's supposed to be better math than what pairwise was. What better math means, not sure, because math is not my thing.
I don't like math. After what happened just now, I don't like math.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So not sure how. So we'll look at the data. I think there's some things that with NPI, there's possibility for bettering the math. When you look at this year with the rule change of adding the mandated shootout, and that shootout not counting for anything, it has no point value in MPI. Conferences can use it. Conferences can use it in their standings. Ours chose to use it in the tiebreaker system, but we're mandated as a sport to do this, but there's no value to doing it. Right. And it also causes a lot of confusion for fans because they're like, oh, we won that game versus so-and-so. Well, actually, we didn't. We tied, but we did win the shootout. So I think there's some improvement. We'll see what the men's and women's committees and the Division I committees come back with to see if there's any shift in that. I would imagine it needs some data to prove that it did have an impact or didn't have an impact either way. So, we'll wait and see what happens in June when all of those meetings occur. So,
right. Is the NPI, was that introduced across all divisions for athletics?
It was not. It was not. So Division II is looking at it very, very closely, following what the trends are. Division III, it was across all Division III.
Do you prefer it versus, actually having discussions and saying, we feel, this school deserves it more than this school for whatever reason, or maybe even using both?
Yeah, that's a tough one. So in relation to hockey, the format that we used, terrible answer, I know it. It's always been that way, right? There is no subjectivity in hockey since pairwise was introduced. Other sports like basketball, every other sport, that subjectivity was removed. So, I've served on women's volleyball at the Division II level and women's soccer at the Division III level. I will tell you, our women's soccer call was 16 hours.
Whoa! Oh my God!
Yes, and I have heard of other committees that it was much, much longer than that. So you're having to go through a 64 team bracket, looking at your top teams in your region, and then
Boy.
you as the region chair, as the national chair for that region, have to fight for your teams to get in. Right? If they're not just head over heels in the categories at that time, you're battling, you're bartering, honestly, to get your teams in.
Wow.
How does that bartering work?
Right. Boxing
It's
gloves.
not easy. What it was, and thankfully it's a little different now. So what it was is, the number one in the region always gets in. It's the 2 through 3, sometimes 4, dependent on the region, is what does that look like? You would be lucky to get 4 in. 3, that's a little less luck than 4, but you're fighting for those 2 and 3 spots. And really what it comes down to, and at that time, was strength of schedule, common opponent wins, and in region wins. Right. So all of that mathing has it in NPI now. So it just spits out a number, and where you land in the rankings is where you land. So that subjectivity of, Oswego volleyball should be in, but we're on that 2 to 3 spot. It's gone. There is no more of that.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's really tough. And I think that's our staff and myself and my staff having conversations with our student athletes so they fully understand the whys, because that subjectivity is gone. Because that's a hard pill to swallow when you're that close and you're just, you don't get in.
Yeah, when you're the number 5 team in the country and you're like, what happened? And Coach Digby had told us, he knew right away that once they lost that game that they weren't getting in.
We were tracking it,
but the girls the girls didn't know, and he said they took it hard. Did any of them say anything to you about it, asking you any questions about what happened?
A few of them that are our student workers talked about it, and it hurts. Right? They had a great season. They broke records. They, all Americans, and they were this close to being into the tournament. It hurts, and that'll stick with them probably for the rest of their life. Especially the seniors. Our underclassmen have another go at it, but the seniors, like that's a tough pill to swallow. So I talked to a few of them, and they asked the same questions. Were you in the room? I'm like, no, I can't be in the room, right? Those questions. And, they fully got it, but, they'll remember that experience, good, bad, or indifferent, for the rest of their life.
Obviously, the women's team, the Oswego women's hockey team, to be more specific, had an incredible season, as we mentioned. It seems as though women's hockey in general has kind of blown up really over the last few years. How much growth have you seen in women's hockey of late?
I think so. We're making some progress, but not enough yet. So when we add teams to the bracket, it's on a 6-to-1 ratio. So 6 institutions have to host it for 1 spot in the bracket. So I believe, unless something happens over the summer, we should be adding a 13th spot to the bracket next year. I am thankful that I am no longer on the committee to figure out how that odd number might work. But the NCAA could come back and say, no, we're now we're only adding evens, which that number for us right now is out of reach. So I would hope legislatively, because it is legislated, that they would allow that committee to add the 13th team in. So there is growth. It is an expensive sport to have. So I think there's some institutions that, fear adding it because it is expensive. And there's other sports that are rising that have, like flag football, for example. I read an article a couple of weeks ago that there's like over 1 million girls playing at all levels, flag football. right? I can't imagine there's that many in hockey right now, but that's an up and coming sport that may move the needle for them enrollment wise than adding hockey, who limits somewhere in the 20s for your roster. So I hope the growth continues happening for the sport. I think if we as a committee continue to highlight the great work of our students at a national level, maybe more girls will want to play.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe, was it Augsburg that had the at-large bid, right? They don't have an automatic bid.
It's River
No, the
Falls.
River
WIAC.
Falls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does it work? Like, how would they be able to get an automatic bid from their conference? So that means,
Automatic bids, yeah, great
you don't
question.
lose that.
Automatic bids are all based on how many teams you have sponsored hockey in your conference, right? So they would need, I think it's 5 or 6 that you need to sponsor or get an automatic qualifier. So they don't have that. I have no idea how many they have, but they're shy of that. I think they're 1 or 2 shy of that with Northland closing. So unless somebody adds in their area or within the WIAC, that would be the only way they would get an AQ.
Gotcha. To go off of Chris's question about the growth of women's hockey, how about the popularity of women's sports in general, right? We've seen obviously basketball, lately, skyrocketing, but other sports as well. How have you seen the rise in women's sports overall?
Yeah, the 2 up and coming sports are flag football and women's wrestling. So women's wrestling is climbing quickly. Fulton has a really large women's wrestling program. They had a tournament here, not this past winter, the winter before, and they had a girls division that was really successful. So that's climbing. In the warmer areas, flag football's climbing. Our area, I think they're like Brockport's adding it. I believe the Empire 8 just added it as a sport. So I'd imagine that's climbing as well. We've seen women's lacrosse climbing as well. So you have 3 sports right there, 2 that are emerging sports. Wrestling will be a championship sport coming here soon. I think that passed in January. And then flag football is an emerging sport. So we'll see where that lands in a couple of years.
Can't imagine Oswego that will go over well in Oswego with the wind.
Yeah, I don't know how you would do that.
We've discussed football very much on this podcast, and in Oswego.
Yeah.
So
definitely not up on the turf. You wouldn't be able to throw anything in the air. Yeah.
What about esports? Where does Oswego stand, or where does the SUNYAC really stand on that?
Yeah, it's not SUNYAC. It's not a sport for us. We do have club esports. I think there's some. Gosh, we talked about this a few years ago about really developing that program through an academic perspective with Dr. Knapp. She'd be a great person to talk about that with. And there was, 100 or so students that were a part of the club esports program. So there's definitely interest. It's a unique sport in itself, as you can imagine. The technology needs are a lot. It's from the computers to the chairs to the screenings to the games itself. It is also a very, very expensive sport to add, to have that specific type of facility as well. I don't know where it's at, but I know we had some discussion a few years ago about the academic side of it and seeing if we can pull our students into that, but that's not my side of the house.
What led you to pursue the athletic director role at SUNY Oswego?
So I'm from Canada, if you didn't know. I grew up in Toronto, but my family lives just outside of Ottawa. So, COVID hit and I'm like, I've been far enough away for long enough. I can't, if I need to get to my aging parents in a quick drive, then I need to be in a space there. So Oswego came open, and I looked at it the first time it came open. I was like, I'm not quite ready yet. I had just taken the Elmhurst position, and then COVID, and it reopened. And was like, okay, there's got to be a sign or something. So I applied for it. And, through my research, I can say one of the things that really, aside from my family in geography, one of the things that really attracted me to Oswego was the institution and the staff here really walk the walk, right? I've been at places where they talk a great game and this is who we are, but Oswego really is authentic to who we are as a community, who we are as an institution, and we walk the walk of how we want to help our students, grow, connect, and thrive, which are new pillars for our strategic plan. Hope I didn't break news there. But we really walk that walk in all areas, from the student affairs area, through some of the things I talked to you about earlier, for student athlete development, academics. That's refreshing. And that really, when I came to campus, never mind, I grew up on Lake Ontario, so how can you not enjoy walking out and seeing the lake whenever you wanted? But that was the big thing for me. It was really, our institution does what they say they're doing.
By the way, Ottawa, like one of the great cities to visit. If you've never been there, anyone that's listening to this podcast, if you've never been to Ottawa, you should go to Ottawa. Just a beautiful city. Absolutely love it up there.
In both seasons,
yes.
Summer and winter.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely
both
agree.
Seasons. I actually got to go up and watch World Juniors.
Nice.
I lucked out. So all of my family put in for the lottery, and I was the one that got it. So we were in Lansdowne, where the football team plays in the Ottawa 67s. But what a great experience, and just take some of those things away. I'm like, how can we do this for our fans here? We'll see. I think they have a little different budget than I do.
Right. So prior to taking the position in Oswego, had you, since you lived in Toronto and kind of the proximity is pretty close to upstate New York, had you visited upstate New York much before that?
So not Oswego, but Buffalo all the time. When I was in club ball in high school, we used to go down and play St. John Fisher every spring. So we would go down, and I'm going to toot my own horn here. I'm pretty sure we beat them. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, we would go down quite often. Been to Syracuse, had never been to Oswego. So yeah, been here and there.
Did you play any sports in college?
Yeah, I played volleyball. I went to Chicago State, which is a small Division I school on the south side of Chicago. I was a multi-sport athlete just because I wanted to make sure that I was maintaining being active. So I actually threw javelin. I learned how to golf while I was there. Even though my brothers are big golfers, I learned while I was there. And that was fun. So I just, my main sport was volleyball. And I was like, I'm going to try these other things and see how successful I could be.
So since you went to school in Chicago, you'd agree that deep dish pizza is like more of a casserole than actual pizza, right?
Nope. I actually love Giordano's deep dish, but it is definitely, Uno's is a very close, but Giordano's is good. It is very different than New York pizza, though.
Yes.
Both very good. Both very good.
We'll agree to disagree on that one, but that's okay. Kevin and I are from New York, the New York City area, so for us, it's like there's no other really type of pizza. But did you ever think about coaching? I know you weren't did you coach much at all? But I know you did. You were an SID or an assistant SID pretty quickly out of school.
Yeah, I coached before anything. So I started my coaching career at Bemidji State University. I was a graduate assistant in Minnesota. And then I coached and was an SID at now University of the Southwest in New Mexico. That was when I arrived, it was 600 students, small, non-denominational Christian college. Learned a lot there. And then took the Texas A&M international job, which was head coach at a D2 program, transition from NAI to Division II. So that was about a 10-year span before I got into administration. Yeah.
Oswego recently rolled out its strategic plans for the next 5 years. So what do we have in store for athletics, during this time?
Yeah, I hope we have a lot. We're going to continue to support our student athletes and support the initiatives of the strategic plan that, is trickled down to benefiting our student athletes. I think somewhere in there, you'll see that there's a program study for Laker Hall and Lee Hall. So hopefully that means some upgrades in the future for our space and for our student athletes. But we'll keep continuing to, support the strategic plan, support our student athletes, and provide them with the programming that, does both. So hopefully you look it over. I don't know how in depth you've gone in, but there is a Laker Hall program study. Program study is like an evaluation of your space, providing the foundation for upgrades.
What would the timeline look like from that to actually implementing upgrades?
I think it all depends on funding.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my question. Like when that is completed, right? The funding purposes, is that more looking at, trying to get grants to be able to fund to upgrades?
I think
things like that?
everything's on the table. Grants, donations, the SUNY construction fund, the state construction fund, all of those are on the table. But what a program study does is give us the footprint, of where our weaknesses are, where we need to immediately address, because of health and safety concerns or whatever it has to be. We need to get Hewitt done first, though, guys. Hewitt's got to get over.
Of course.
Yes.
It's almost done. So darn. So we can start talking about something else.
Is there any thought to perhaps like what Oswego did when hockey played in the Golden Romney Fieldhouse and they moved it to center campus? Is there any thought or any possibility of considering moving Laker Hall maybe somewhere closer to central campus?
Yeah, I don't think we're there yet in that conversation. I will say from my experience, it's easier to redo a building than get funds for a new building. I think our space, we have enough space. We just need to upgrade it, right? We need to revision our basement. We need to do some other things on our main floor, and then our second floor where all our offices are, we need to revision some of those. So the square footage wise, we have plenty. We just need to, well, I say that now and then I'm going to go ask for a bunch of storage, right? But we have a lot of space that we can repurpose, revision to meet the needs of our students, and then also projecting forward. Because when we do this, we want to make sure that our space will last another, 10, 20, 30 years and not need to be as upgraded as just surface things.
Well, Wendy, thank you so much for joining us. This was fantastic. And
great. Let's do it again.
Well, how about next week? You good?
Tomorrow.
I'm sure I've got some coaches that can fill in for next week.
Well, all the best to you. This was, really congratulations on being part of this, really capping off a great academic year for Oswego athletics, and onwards and upwards from here.
Yes, that's right. Thank you so much for having me. I truly appreciate it.
And that was the assistant vice president for intercollegiate athletics, and also the outgoing chair of the NCAA Division III Women's Ice Hockey Committee. It's Wendy McManus. Then great insight into, Oswego athletics as a whole. It really seems like the plan, right? Trust the process. it's working. And we're really starting to see the fruits of that labor that Wendy's done since joining in 2021.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just look at all the success all the teams have had. You know, I mean, you named off a whole bunch of teams at the beginning of the show, like all winning records. You know, I mean, that's a huge testament to what they're doing. It's fantastic.
And she said, I knew a bunch of people that played tennis when I was there, and we weren't very good, but apparently they're doing better now.
It's hard because tennis, like things like tennis and track and field and wrestling and golf, it's not wins loss. You know, it's harder
It's
to
individual
quantify.
sports and
But yes, I mean volleyball. I think they went from something like 6-16 to 14-14. So like a big jump.
That's a huge jump. Yeah.
That's a huge jump. And I know volleyball is near and dear to her heart. So they had a great improvement from year over year. You know, all of these sports, they are gradually as a whole, you just see that trajectory where things are just better by the year.
Yeah, I mean, women's lacrosse is 6-2 on the season right now. You know, their season is, really just getting, into high gear at this point. But
Right.
they're having a pretty good season thus far. So, and she mentioned Coach Howard, the all-time winningest coach at Oswego now. So
I don't know about the pizza talk. So
I'm sorry. It's listen, Chicago pizza is not really pizza casserole. All right, let's just that's what it is.
I'm curious to know if you live in Chicago and you call your local pizzeria and you say, I'll take a pepperoni pizza.
Yeah.
What do they give you? They don't give you a deep dish, I don't think. They just give you like a New York pizza, don't they?
No. Do they make New York style pizza there?
No, it's Chicago.
They'll yell at you.
I don't think I don't know. I'm not a Chicago.
Like when I call a pizza place, I say I want one large pie and that's it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Done.
Or if you walk into a joint, right, or down on the corner, you want a slice. Give me like a slice. They give you a slice.
They don't give you slices in Chicago.
That's what I'm saying. They give you a whole casserole. They take the pan out of the
and
oven
they put the sauce on top of the cheese.
That's what I'm saying. It's a casserole.
I don't know, man. It's just crazy.
Listen,
look, I've had it. It's not bad, but it's not. I agree. It's not pizza.
It's not pizza.
But it's good. I enjoy it for what it is.
It tastes nice,
but it's not like pizza.
It's heavy, man. It's heavy.
2 slices and I'm like, oh my God.
Again, it's a casserole. All right. They put weird things on their hot dogs in Chicago too.
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
They put like pickles and relish and
cream
like
cheese,
cucumbers and stuff. Detroit does weird stuff
man.
Also. They do weird things also with their pizza and their hot dogs.
I mean,
see, New York, man, we're just the basics.
Spoiled.
You know what?
We're spoiled.
We don't need to dress up our dogs or dress
right.
up our pizzas because
Very
they're
simple.
The best.
That's right. Very simple. We're simple people. Give me a thin slice of cheese. I want it to be a little crispy. You can fold it. You got to be able to fold it.
Yes,
that's how you eat the pizza. You got to fold it.
Exactly. You can't fold Chicago pizza, that's for sure.
You can't fold it. You need a fork and a knife to eat it.
You're wearing it.
Exactly.
I mean, you know who invented pizza with the pineapple and ham on it, right?
Someone who should have not made a pizza ever.
He was Greek.
Oh, he wasn't very smart. No offense, Chris.
And he's from Canada. Pretty sure.
I don't know.
Double checking that. But he is Greek.
Pineapple should not go on pizza.
Look, I agree. I think it's a terrible combination.
No.
I've had a few Hawaiian pizzas in my day, and I would have one again. I have no issue.
Wow.
No.
Hawaiian pizza is should not be a thing.
And now listen, if he instead put feta cheese and lamb on the pizza, then different story. But he's putting pineapple and whatever on it. It's no good. I don't like
You
that.
put feta cheese and lamb on pizza?
No, I'm just saying if he did, and that was a thing, to be better than the pineapple and the ham. You know what I'm saying?
It's like a salad pizza.
Salad pizza.
Little feta and spinach. Oh,
feta and spinach works.
That.
I mean,
that works.
The place near me does. They do a salad pizza where it's just like
just all vegetables. So it's just a vegetable pizza.
Sauce and vegetables on it. Yeah, that's it.
Do they actually put like red, like marinara sauce on it
Yeah, they put
with the
like
vegetables.
with the vegetables. I think they do. I don't know. My wife eats it. I don't know. She can't eat cheese, so she has to be creative.
Huh.
Yeah.
So there's no cheese on it.
No cheese.
Is it a pizza then?
I don't know. It's dough. It's dough with vegetables on it.
And sauce, apparently.
So why not just get the salad?
I don't know. Don't
Because
ask
you
me.
can't put
Don't ask me
marinara on the
questions.
salad.
Yeah, I mean that's just weird.
Why not? This is America.
Well, I suppose you could do marinara sauce and then put some croutons on it and, mix it all up. Same thing.
I guess.
All
I don't know. Who knows?
I don't know. All I know
Anyway.
is Chicago pizza, not pizza.
Not pizza. Agreed.
All right. Not going to argue. That is a hill I'm not dying on. To each their own, right?
Agreed.
To
And
each
again,
their own.
it's not bad. It's just not pizza.
All right. On that note,
His name is Chris Douglas. He lives at 121 Mary Jane Lane.
Mary Jane, really? That's what we just did there, huh? Mary Jane. Good. Good.
I actually just threw that out there just randomly, to be quite honest with you. Didn't even think about it.
yes, Chris doesn't really live in Mary Jane Lane, just in case you were wondering.
Sometimes you go into Mary Jane land, but that's a whole different conversation.
Whatever floats your boat.
My last dance, Mary Jane. One more time to kill a pain.
All right, Tom.
Rest in peace.
Throwingbagels.com, Throwing Bagels Podcast at gmail.com is our email address. Social media, all over the website, throwingbagels.com. We're on all that stuff. You name it, we're there. YouTube, right? Follow us on YouTube. We put a lot of good stuff on there.
We do.
So please do. Put Instagram, it's there. Twitter.
There might be an outtake or two on
Outtake or
on
two,
this
maybe.
one.
Perhaps.
Maybe there might be Chris's challenge with the English language.
Can't talk.
Might be on the YouTube later.
Professional broadcaster can't talk. Don't know how that happened.
Bye.
Adios.
See ya.